Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Volatility has picked up for Bitcoin once again. Yesterday, we saw this beautiful little pump to the upside. You guys know that I was calling for a 30K bounce soon. That was just 2 days ago. And yesterday, we actually got that move already. So that was very cool to see. Basically, I was looking at this 4-hour wedge breakout, which works well because today is Wedge Wednesday. So we can talk about this a little bit. Everyone looks at things differently. Everyone has their own way of drawing things. Wedges actually were one of my favorite patterns to trade before I was kind of using these indicators and stuff like that. Just as far as patterns that I noticed from an early start, I guess, with my trading. That was one of my favorite patterns. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I was hanging on to my bullish bias as we were trading a bit lower here. Just because this is a pattern that I have done a lot of back testing on. You guys know I quite often mention going back with the replay feature on TradingView and going back to random points in the chart, mapping out certain trade setups, find out what your probabilities are so you can kind of keep emotions out of it a little bit. This was one of the patterns that I did back test quite a bit, and this was quite a while ago, so I should actually do a little refresher on that. I should see if the market is still, I guess, reacting to them the way that I was back testing them. And basically, I think I back tested about 2 years in the chart history. Looking for falling wedges and rising wedges on the 4-hour and the daily chart, and I ended up with something like I think it was like a 87% success rate, and that's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite patterns that I still do watch basically at all times. I love watching wedges as well as using the indicators, and I'll actually show you how you can use the indicators to provide a little bit of confluence with spotting them. So yeah, basically, first and most importantly, I like to see at least 3 touch points on a trend line before considering it valid. This was a fairly clear falling wedge. We obviously got some nice touches. Just kind of looking at it here, we obviously had our starting, we had our second one, and then we kind of just hugged it right here. We were actually tapping away at this resistance line from both directions there, but still very much respecting it. Got this little fake out and then just blasted to the upside. So we never even quite reached back down to the support of this wedge. We just ended up getting that breakout. Now, one thing that's unfortunate is how quickly we came back down. But I mean, that's why we take profits along the way, right, guys? I mean, I was shooting for a 30K target. We ended up getting, I think, maybe $40 above that or something like that. So that was just absolutely beautiful. So I'm actually not in this long position anymore. This blue dotted line was where I got my average entry to, just because I was kind of laddering heavier as I got lower, closer to my stop loss. So I was able to bring my average entry down quite a bit for that swing play. But yeah, like I said, I closed that last night. One of my big reasons for that is with the MDX ALGO indicators. You guys know I've been pointing this out quite a bit recently, is which way the W's are trending. I'm actually just going to make an adjustment here to clean things up a little bit. Just temporarily going to get rid of the supply and demand zones here. That'll be these red and green boxes. But yeah, basically one of my favorite trading strategies lately has been just using the reversal warnings on the ALGO 3 for confluence in which way I'm trading. And what I mean by that is, back here you can see that the lows were trending higher, get a beautiful, even looking at this on a 4-hour, obviously you get the higher W there, you get a nice entry there, play it to the next W, boom, beautiful trade right there. So that's just one example where you see the W's trending a certain direction. I point it out on smaller time frames all the time. But basically the 4-hour right now, and I was talking about this as well in the previous video, we had a W here. Well, let's actually go back. Here is where the directions change. We're still setting higher W's, got a higher W, and then we notice the direction change. We see the tops setting a lower high, and then as well another slightly lower high. So basically when we ended up getting that rejection there, I closed the rest of the positions that I was in, because that's just showing that there's potential that this trend is just going to continue to the downside, especially because we still had the lower W's trending to the downside as well. You can see we're just setting lower lows. So that can be a very powerful signal when looking for confluence, when looking for trades. And honestly, it has quickly become my favorite strategy when looking to scalp specifically. You guys know I love the degen timeframes, love my 1 minute charts and that sort of thing. But you can see it absolutely helps on larger timeframes as well. So very significant signals there, in my opinion. And yeah, especially getting that rejection off the 30K, nice round number there, getting that reversal warning there. That was just kind of reasons for me to close that position a little bit early. I was hoping that it would get a bigger breakout, end up here. And I'm not even going to rule that out yet, to be quite honestly, because these W's do appear that they may be forming a bit of a rounding bottom. You can see that they're just starting to get less aggressively lower, much like on the tops. You can see that we very well, and I mean, anything can happen. Obviously, we can see this rejection, we just dump to the downside, we see more lower W's, something like that, just kind of ping-ponging, trending down, continuing with that. But as it stands right now, it looks like they may be shifting, forming a rounding bottom. I'm not going to consider that valid until we actually see it. So what I would love to see on this trend is just to notice that, hey, you know, maybe the fact that we are just getting a perfect retest of this wedge right now, maybe we do end up just getting a nice kind of bounce off that level, and we do actually break some of the structure back here and form just a little bit of a higher high with the reversal warnings as confluence, and then to see the price pull back and then see also a higher low. That would just be absolutely beautiful. And I am really looking forward to the day that we end up seeing that on the 4 hour again. I'm going to take that quite serious. So yeah, that's just a strategy. I love to use it on all time frames. And that's one reason why I am being a little bit cautious right now. Just the fact that we may be trending to the downside, but it is nice to see, though, that even though this was just a little bit of a wick, we are respecting this downward sloping resistance as new support quite well so far. Obviously, anything can happen there and change that, but that is nice to see. So yeah, like I said, I love wedges. One of my favorite patterns to play, and this was a perfect example. And now, if we really want to zoom out here, that's where we got to start looking at potentially even bigger ones. Here, let's just going to zoom out a little bit here. See, actually with these W's, you can see on the daily, they're still actually trending to the upside. You can see we had a high here, we had a higher high, a higher high, a higher high. So the W's are still trending to the upside on the daily, as well on the bottom side here. We did have this little bit of a fake out where we got a warning. That's what I'm just going to consider a warning. So we did have that shift in trend where we set a lower low there, but we never had the top W's agreeing with that. So it just, I wouldn't just right away go short on that signal, but that's just kind of where, yeah, even though it did play out beautifully as a bounce there, just good to be cautious at that kind of a situation because the indicator may be hinting at something there. But obviously those bullish calls were correct. So yeah, what I would really like to see now is to see wherever we end up finding support, I would love to see another W show up, just to see another kind of a higher low W on this trend. I think would be just absolutely phenomenal. I would be quite bullish if we see that. Just as far as wedges go, I just want to point out this potentially much larger one. Now, there's a couple different ways that we could map this out. And you'll see this would be my white line here. And I know I've seen a lot of people discuss this being a ascending triangle, which is generally a bullish pattern, gets a beautiful breakout to the upside. One thing to be a little bit cautious of with that is that we did technically have this failed break, which means that the resistance was actually climbing. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like a wedge on a very large time frame. I would not want to see us break out of this rising wedge. Rising wedges are generally a little bit more bearish, just like falling wedges are a little more bullish. Obviously, they can break out any direction, But just as far as a regular bias kind of situation goes, if this is a rising wedge, this could be a very bearish pattern, but I'm not really going to consider it valid until we see a third touch point on either one of these trend lines. Whenever a trend line, when I have patterns like this, specifically wedges, just because it's what I'm comfortable with, like I said earlier, I really like to see that third touch point on a trend line before it breaks. Otherwise, I'm more likely to consider it more of a failed break or a fake out, whatever you want to call it. If we just kind of break out to the upside right now, for example, I'd actually be a little bit nervous that we never got that third test of that trend line before breaking it. And same thing goes on the bottom side. If we just kind of break through right now, I would almost consider it looking at the possibility at least that it would be a fake out, especially if it's only like a, let's say 1 minute or 5 minute wicks can't even close below that line. Just get some sort of a fake out like that. I would actually be very bullish at that point and looking at that as a failed swing fail pattern there and looking to long that. If we end up getting a third touch point with a bit of a bounce, just end up hitting our lower high as far as the structure goes, and then let's say break it after that, that's where I'd be very interested to see how we react to that line when we retest it from the bottom side. Because after it has that, here we have 1, 2, if we get a third touch point, then that break and flip it to resistance, that's where I think the market could be seeing some much lower targets. And just basically looking at very basic horizontal support levels from basically each of these major pivotal points on the daily. I just have these purple lines here, kind of a few different areas that I'm watching if we do end up dropping to those levels. But you guys know I generally play shorter time frames anyways. This is all just stuff that I'm basically keeping my eye on the overall health of the market, right? Just to kind of keep a level head and not, even if I lose some trades or whatever, just not to be blindsided. I want to know why I lost my trades if it happens and that sort of thing. So these are just some levels that I'm watching as far as the longer time frame goes. Let me just catch up on some messages here a little bit. Just forgot a little bit. And I'm also going to, oh yeah, see that level never did hold. This is interesting. We got very close to holding this wedge, actually. We never quite tested it. But yeah, once again, you guys, this is just a perfect example of this warning, right? We have a W and we have a lower low W. Like I said at the beginning there, was that even during the stream or was that right before I was warning about this? That we may not actually hold this higher low on this very micro swing here. Said we might not hold it because it looks like the W's are still warning that further downside is possible there. So just a very interesting, super simple strategy there. Like, yeah, just like any trading strategy, it's not going to work out every time or anything like that. But so often when I do typically lose a trade, I've found recently that it's because I ignore some kind of reversal warning or whatever. Just basically ignoring the trend of these W's is usually when a trade bites me in the ass. So it's something that I won't take a trade now unless that is there. Unless I can get a very, very tight stop loss, then I'm okay taking some other positions. But as far as this strategy goes, it's just almost a must for me at this point. Just trading the direction that the W's are going. So as far as right now goes, I would love to see us start setting some, let's say we get a bit of a pump. Most likely we're going to set a lower high. Just from the looks of it, looks like we would set a lower high. I would actually be interested in shorting something like that, just looking to scalp a short. But ideally, you guys know that I'm a bit of a moon boy sometimes, and I can accept that. But what I want to see is to just start seeing highs and higher highs of these W's, as well as the W's take a shift to the upside from the bottom as well. That's just, basically a part of my scalping strategy that has almost become mandatory. I know a few people in the Discord have started implementing that a little bit. How many of you guys are familiar with this strategy, I guess? I know I see a lot of you guys in my streams, so I know a lot of you guys are familiar with this. Anybody who may not be a part of most of my streams, is there anything you need me to go over explain a little better. I mean, basically just looking at the directions of the W's. If they're trending to the upside, that's when I want to be playing the bottom W's. If we're trending to the downside, that's why I want to start look at the top W's, looking for shorts, right? Because you want to play with the trend. Do you only consider wedges? I often look onto a single rising or falling trend line, even without other accompanying clear trend line on the other side. Yeah, absolutely, Pete. I do the same thing quite often. I mean, I map out wedges like this quite often, but really the main point of me looking at wedges, really any sort of shape that I'm looking at trading in the markets. My main thing is whatever trend line I'm looking at for a break, I like to see it have at least 3 touch points before it breaks out. Here actually would have been a perfect example. That would have been a great little scalp long opportunity, scalp it up to the reversal warning or whatever. Just because, I mean, yeah, this is only a 1 minute, take it for what it is, but we have this touch point, and this touch point, pinpoint accurate, and then we got that break above, flip that line into support, and then we got that very micro pump. But I mean, you're not entering a 1 minute position and looking for a 4-hour type of move, right? So play it for what it is. If you're trading the 1 minute, obviously, when I trade the 1 minute anyways, I'm very quick to start taking profits on a position and updating stop loss. And then of course the goal is to have those scalps turn into a runner, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. I mean, I was really only looking for $100 or a couple $100 move there in the charts, and then the price moved like $800 or so, and it was with this W signal. I'm actually going to go back. Where did we really take off here? I know I had pointed it out. Where was that? Oh, it was right here. I think I pointed it out in the Discord. I had pointed out that we had this W here, and we had a very slightly higher W here. So this is the type of opportunity where, hey, we have the W's trending to the upside. Actually, we even had, this one was lower as well. So we had a higher W, another higher W. But basically, the top ones never did align. Obviously, they were undecided because they were flip-flopping from, we had a high, higher high, then straight to a lower high there. That was a bit of a warning that we might be flipping to the downside, but then we did just get a higher low. And the reason I took this scalp was because, well, for one, I was watching and I saw how close these W's were. And generally when I use this strategy, so I'd obviously be entering on the candle close of that second W. And then my stop loss is just basically a little bit below my previous W. So a very tight stop loss. I think on this position it was something like I had a stop loss within $25, and I ended up catching like a $600 or $700 move out of it, something like that. So it can just be a super helpful strategy when looking for those types of setups. Obviously, it's not going to be that perfect all the time. Like, maybe here we wouldn't have got this one and we got a W up here, in which case you're entering somewhere up here and your stop loss is way down below this one. Obviously loosens it up a little bit, and that's where you just have to take position sizing, leverage use, kind of taking all those things into consideration. But just an absolutely beautiful setup there for such a tight stop loss. I didn't care if I got stopped out on that position. I'm okay losing those few bucks for the size of move that it turned into. And you guys, I was also, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it in the Bitcoin chat there, but I was already taking profits at this level. We were hitting the 5 minute volume weighted moving average, which is my trend one. So as soon as we were hitting that, I was already starting to take profits on that scalp, because as far as a 1 minute scalp goes, I got that next W, right? We had the low, we had a higher low. That's your entry. Next W, boom, starting to take profits already, because playing it for what it is, 1 minute trading is very active. You're not just setting it and forgetting it. You don't always get the size move that you were hoping for, but just being ready to move on that position basically. So yeah, like I said, I was already taking profits here, but I was also taking profits up here. I was taking profits up here. I was taking profits up here. I was just basically taking little nibbles off it after taking the initial out and then updating my stop loss. From there, I was just nibbling every once in a while. When I'd see another reversal warning, boom, I'll just take a little bit more profits, kind of a thing. So played out absolutely great. Ended up hitting that 30K target, but like I said, I was shortly after that rejection, I ended up closing out all of my positions. So very cool strategy. Like I said, super simple, and yeah, it's not going to work every time, but a situation like that, it's such a tight stop loss type of setup that sometimes it's just too hard to refuse something like that. Interesting would be if and how to see changing direction of W before they happen. Sometimes I get that feeling, and often it will occur before the next W occurs, but I can't explain why. Is it safe to always weight the last W higher than the previous right before it? It would be nice to see. I mean, the thing is, there's so many different signals on the ALGO 3 as well that may actually catch that reversal a little earlier. This is just a strategy that I kind of came up with on my own like a month or two ago, and it's just something that I noticed happening. But honestly, you can probably notice the same thing happen with some of the other signals as well. Like I'm sure sometimes the TPs, for example, will be trending in a direction, or the trend exhaustion ones might be trending in a certain direction, that kind of thing. Is it safe to always weight the last W higher than the previous right before it? I'm not sure what you mean there. What do you mean by weight? Like using yesterday's example. Oh, yes. Yeah, so like I was saying with this one, the only reason I ended up taking this long, this scalp here, I did go against the fact that, you know, our W's on the top were actually trending down, so this was like there was a bit of a warning there. The only reason I took this one was just because of how tight the stop loss was. Generally speaking, I would rather have had the tops also trend into the upside. Sorry, I'm just going to change. I don't like that I put a few other things up just for what I'm talking about here, because I think we're covering up a W here. Yeah. So, yeah, generally speaking, like let's say we ended up having this W and a higher W, and let's just pretend this never happened at all. And then we had this kind of a situation where we got the higher W there. That's more so the type of position that I'm interested in with this strategy. The fact that our highs were actually disagreeing with the bottoms, I didn't have a ton of confidence in that, to be honest. But the reason I took it was because I didn't give a shit if I lost this position, because the stop loss was just so tight. That one could have gone either way for sure, but just that it was such a tight stop, I figured why not? Hopefully I answered what you were getting at there. Perfect. So I was talking about bringing wedges into the game, or bringing the indicators to wedges, and just to kind of use the algo indicators as confluence. I'm going to just try and find some examples here. Actually, I know on the 4 hour it had started, and it's actually one of the reasons I was watching my falling wedge as well, was just if you're looking at trend lines I mean, obviously we can see where we can basically pick some spots, connect some dots and lines, that kind of thing, and we get our trend line. But I find that they're actually more significant when the ALGO 3 indicator lines up with them as well. And that's actually one of the reasons I was so bullish on this falling wedge, is just because, you know, this touch point up here, we had a reversal warning around this cluster up here. Down here where we had topped out, we ended up getting this W here as well. So yeah, we never got a third one there. If we got a third W with a rejection there and then broke out, I actually would have traded this a lot heavier. But just the fact that we never got that third bit of confluence there just dropped my confidence just very slightly. So I just went a little bit lighter there. But that's just one thing that I like. And I think actually, Nicholas, you were on I think April 20th stream with me, I believe, for about 7 hours. And we were pointing out, I was looking at some triangle patterns, some wedges, where we were actually getting like perfect confirmations with the ALGO indicators, where we were getting either like these W's along the trend line or take profits along those lines. So I'm actually going to bring up a couple other indicators here, or a couple other signals. I'm actually done most of the main analysis of this video. Well, not even main analysis, just lesson. I'm just going to bring up the minute chart. We're going to get the DGen on here, just kind of check out what's going on in the charts. And I just want to bring up some of those other signals to see if that actually did happen here at all, just as a good example. Or see if I can go back and find some examples. Take profits, trend exhaustion. That should be all the big orange dots. Let's see, they will come up in a minute here. Oh yeah, we got our TPs. Yeah, so this one, for example, we never did have more signals along this trend line, but that is something that would also give me a little bit more confidence in a position. So obviously with this example, we don't have that perfectly, but that is something to watch for, guys. If you're mapping out trend lines or chart patterns, just pay attention to how the ALGO 3 is putting signals up on that trend line as well, because that can definitely be used as some confluence. Just to give you a little bit, just a little more confidence in your trend line, that the indicators agree that what you're seeing is in fact a trend line. I was hoping we'd actually get right down to this and get that kind of a formation, but yeah, can we point out any little wedges here? Something like that. See, this is one of those cases where I don't really take this breakout if we were looking at this as a bit of a resistance line for a falling wedge. I'm not taking it all too seriously because it only has those two touch points. Doesn't have a third one before breaking out. And then obviously it looks like we're going to set a lower high with the W's. Let me just get rid of the take profits and the trend exhaustion just so we can see the W's more clearly again, just because they're my favorite. I'm going to play favorites. I ain't scared. So yeah, as it stands right now, I don't know if I'm going to get into the type of long scalp that I was hoping to, just because it's going to take a little bit of time until we end up setting some higher W's. I'd consider trying swinging at a short as well if we end up setting a lower high. So basically, the way I would look at playing this, I have a hard time shorting right now, especially with the potential of this 4-hour wedge. Obviously, here, let me just draw it back up again. How did I have it? I think it was something like so. Just the fact that we did get this breakout and now we I mean, there's definitely a chance we're just seeing this little bit of an initial pullback and then going to get a bigger move out of this wedge is absolutely possible. So I'm a little hesitant to be shorting right now. Just generally speaking, honestly, I play the bullish side better. Maybe it's just because that's my general bias with the market right now on the longer time frames. So I find that I just keep a more level head when I'm playing longs and scalping longs rather than shorts. But I would definitely consider, if we see the W's agreeing. Oh shit, actually something I totally missed and I wish I didn't. We obviously had this low and we had a lower low. This would be the highest point between the two, so that was our lower high. Just on this very micro swing, guys. I'm just talking like this. So this right here would have actually been a bit of a scalp entry there, but honestly on a 1 minute, I feel like I already missed that, so. And let me know if I'm ever going over market structure and there's something you don't understand there as well. Or maybe you look at it a little different than me. Hopefully that makes sense how I look at it. You can do the bearish downside as well. Simply invert the chart. Yeah, honestly, I've done that from time to time. It's not a crazy idea. If you have a strong bias pulled one direction, you can invert the charts and it can definitely make you look at things a little bit different. Oh, I do have a few messages to catch up on. Crypto Soho, you trade on MEX, see the same chart, and to you it's not triggering a W warning. It shows a TP signal. Do you know why this may be? And you're on the 1 minute? And which one are you talking about? Obviously you said this a little while ago. Was it the one down here? The 1 minute. Soho, are you... Ooh, should we swing at a scalp? We have this green cloud below us, but I mean, this is definitely a potential scalp. I might take a small scalp short just to see if we get one. It will be small and it's going to be laddered in. I'm just going to get a very small one in right now. And then I am going to ladder in as we get up closer to the previous W, because since there is that bit of a gap there, it is a bit of a looser stop loss. I personally think we're going to climb a little bit higher, but as far as the W's, just for demonstrational purposes, I'll show you this. Soho, are you definitely on perpetual futures on the 1 minute? If you're on BTC Tether Spot, it would be different potentially. I'm not sure why yours would be different than mine. I don't think the trend settings would make a difference with that. I don't know what to tell you. PMDE, I notice your settings for scalping are set different than mine. Yes, my settings are probably set different than most people's. I basically always have mine set up like this recently. I have them set up differently on different charts, but I believe it's with trading view, it just makes it difficult for them to be able to make it so that we can save our settings and that kind of thing. I believe there's a bit of a tough time with trading view on that end there. So I have separate settings on separate charts, basically, rather than separate settings on the same chart. But yeah, I have volume weighted moving average, the 5 minute. That would be this trend line that you can see up here. That's currently just above us. And the EMA is the 1 hour. And honestly, there's no magical number that's going to make the long signals or short signals or anything line up absolutely perfectly. There's no magic number. It basically comes down to figuring out what your eye can catch, right? Because we could all have the exact same chart, same trend lines, same settings on the same indicators, and we could trade the market completely different. So it's more figuring out what you react well to, I guess, what settings you react well to. But these are my settings. If you want to use them, by all means. I just go volume weighted moving average on the 5 minute because I find it just reacts a little bit quicker than the EMA on the 5 minute. And since I'm scalping a very short time frame, that's basically why I did that. And the 1 hour EMA, I've just used it since day one, ever since that's been a thing for a year now or whatever. I forget how long I've been using these now. But yeah, I've always used EMA 1 hour. And that's one of my other favorite strategies, is actually noticing when we get fake outs kind of touching the 1 hour trend. Let's just find where that is right now, probably above us. Yeah. Right now, I'm not sure why, but right now there's a bit of a lag behind the price, so you kind of have to just freestyle eyeball where you figure it is, I guess. But basically, getting a test of the 1 hour trend and specifically getting these reversal warnings when you're tapping away at it, that can be another very, very powerful trade setup. Just trade signal, I guess. I find the 1 hour trend, that's probably the first trading strategy or scalping strategy I started doing with these indicators, was just seeing how shorter time frames were acting with that 1 hour EMA trend, finding when you're reversing or getting failed breaks of it and that kind of thing. One of my favorite strategies to use there. So we haven't actually tested it yet. That's another reason why I think we could climb a little bit more too, is even if we are going to trend to the downside, I wouldn't be too surprised to see us end up testing this 1 hour trend, seeing some kind of a W as we test just above it. Something like that could be a good scalp short opportunity. What did my entry end up being? 29165. And honestly, I think I'm actually going to close it already, guys. I'm just doing this as a demonstration and showing you guys. But since we did have, like I said, we did break this lower high here, even though we're looking weak right now with those trending W's, just as far as demonstrational purposes go. And like I said, I'm not really interested in shorting right now. This was just for a demonstration. I'm just going to take my few bucks and run with that, just to show you live how that strategy works, right? Like, ideally, if I was more confident in this setup, I'd be more waiting for, like, let's say we trend down more and get another W. That's more where I'd be looking at taking profits if I was looking at a bigger trade. But like I said, with the break of that structure on the 1 minute, I'm just not comfortable holding it. So call it, take the few bucks and get the hell out of here. Also, we do have this potential bottom signal coming in. And honestly, just the fact that we broke this structure, like I was saying, we're seeing just a couple warnings that, hey, you know, maybe we're not actually going to trend to the downside. So I'd rather just be out of my position than to assume that it's going to be a runner. Also, actually quite important, looking down at the oscillator 5 money flow, we got a green cloud there. So that's another thing I don't really like to fight, because generally money talks. And if there's money flowing into the market, I don't necessarily want to hold that position. Even if it would have been a beautiful trade, that's okay. I wasn't planning on entering a short anyways. So, actually, just looking at the oscillator 4 as well, when I did take that position, something I never even noticed, but we did have that bearish pivot as well. So it is nice when you see the indicators kind of lining up. The only thing that wasn't really lining up is that money flow on the oscillator 5. So I think it was the right decision. I'm more interested to see what the W's do to the upside eventually, but I don't think I'll be streaming anymore. But at least you guys kind of just got a demonstration of how I like to use that strategy. So hopefully that was helpful, as small of a little scalp as it was. And the thing is, guys, like trading the 1 minute obviously isn't for everybody. It's just so much easier for me to demonstrate to you guys these things live on the 1 minute, obviously, so we're not waiting for a super long time. But I've seen this same strategy. Like I said, I was pointing it out on the 4 hour. Oh, geez, where are we here? I was pointing it out on the 4 hour. Pete, I think you had pointed it out to me on the 1 hour before. So this strategy works on other time frames as well. So yeah, on the 1 minute, maybe it ended up being a super quick, barely profitable position there. But this can happen on larger time frames as well. So honestly, it has become one of my favorite trading strategies just because it's so simple. And there's really, I mean, there's such easy to understand invalidation points and that kind of thing. So when you can get into a nice tight stop loss with that, it can be such a useful little signal. Oh, that's good. I'm glad that my streams inspire you a little bit. It's always good to hear. I always like talking crypto with people. I don't have enough people in my life that talk crypto, so I like being here. Well, Leggies, I think we made the right call. We're already higher than what I entered that one on, so yeah, good decision. I am from Canada. How about you? Oh, nice. I was really hoping to get to Mexico this year. I'm going to Cuba for sure. Might hit up Mexico as well. We'll see. Depends how harsh our winter is this year. Sometimes minus 40 degrees Celsius gets old pretty quick. Oh, I'd definitely hit you up. Can you show settings for ALGO 5? Not getting all the top red dots. Yeah, I actually haven't looked at my settings in a long time. I might have added a few things. I definitely checked on the hidden bullish and hidden bearish divergences. That would obviously be the H's. I find hidden divergences quite powerful for confluence as well. Um, yeah, that's what my settings are. Those are, to be quite honest, I'm don't even remember which ones those are. You're talking these big red dots up here. I think that's something in here. We'll find it. Or we won't. Oh, would it be one of these? Oh, that's what it is. It's the indicator's divergences here. Must be the hidden ones. Yeah. Yeah, probably should have been more interested in scalping along as soon as I saw this break here. But whatever. I really wanted to show you guys the W strategy live, and I would love to hear from you guys if you end up like noticing it in the charts later on in the future. Now that you kind of see how I look at it or whatever, let me know. Also, even after this video, if you have questions about it, obviously don't hesitate to shoot a message into the Discord there. 29,080, you say? Yeah, that would just be a slightly higher high than this guy down here. Actually, I bet you it's probably a good Fibonacci line. Yeah, that would kind of be right in that 786, 886 pocket of this current swing here. See, we got the bounce basically right off the 618. But yeah, I find that generally speaking, if we end up losing the 382 fib, which was actually that higher low I was watching earlier as well, I find quite often when we lose the 382 that we end up seeing this pocket down here, the 786 to 886. So yeah, you know, I think there's still definitely a chance we end up down there. I'm not going to short it, but I can see it. I'd be interested in longing that too. Something like that, perhaps. Something else to watch there. Maybe we have some sort of wedge slash triangle forming here. Something worth watching, because again, like I mentioned, using the ALGO 3 to confirm it, you know, we have this W here, we have this W here, but this structure in general, we test it there. Down here we have a W, we have a W down here, so that's just kind of the ALGO also noticing these trend lines, right? So that's interesting. Oh yeah, let's get the supply and demand back up. I got rid of that to clean things up a little bit. Here we are mapping out resistance and support like suckers on our own. The indicator can do it for us. Yeah, totally. Nice big green demand zone down there too, so that's nice. You know, just to make sure that I'm watching for this pullback, I am going to set an alert to go once per minute, so my phone will let me know to take a look at my damn phone if we end up touching that level. Same with here. When I'm looking at a range like this, that's quite often what I'll do. Set my alarm to go every minute so I know my phone's going to annoy the hell out of me until I check it out. Yeah, I don't have a heck of a lot else to talk about here, guys. So I am going to wrap up the stream here, but I will stick around for a little bit, as I like to do. Yeah, you guys with me right now? Stick around for a couple minutes here. For the rest of you who are watching on my YouTube channel a little later, obviously I upload these as quick as I can after doing these streams. They take a little time to upload, so generally speaking, it's an hour or two later. So obviously, guys, none of this has been financial advice. Always do your own research, form your own opinions. But if you did appreciate this video and just seeing what we kind of talk about in the Discord here and that kind of things, looking at different strategies and all that good stuff, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. As well, guys, if you want to be a part of these live streams and other live coaching events in MDX Crypto's VIP Discord, as well as having access to my favorite indicators, there is a 15% discount referral link down in the comments down below to join. So with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.